4 true scary boat horror stories. From Reddit, Story 1, The Vanishing Crew. On a quiet summer evening, Reddit user C488 shared a chilling tale from his time working as a deckhand on a cargo ship. The ship was docked at a small port in the Caribbean for routine maintenance. The crew had some downtime, and they decided to enjoy a night on shore. When they returned to the ship the next morning, everything seemed off. The ship's lights were out and the crew's quarters were eerily silent. They assumed it was a power outage and began to investigate. However, they soon realized that the crew was missing. There were no signs of their belongings, no personal effects, and no trace of their presence. Panic set in as they searched the ship. The radio was dead and attempts to contact the port were futile. It was as if the crew had simply vanished. The deckhand remembered hearing strange noises during the night, an unsettling mix of whispers and footsteps that he couldn't explain. The situation became even more bizarre when they discovered a strange, unmarked boat moored alongside their ship. The boat was empty, but there were traces of blood on its deck. The crew's disappearance remained a mystery, and the ship was eventually abandoned. To this day, the Reddit user and the remaining crew members are haunted by the memory of that night and the eerie silence that followed. Story 2, The Phantom Vessel. Waverder92 recounted a terrifying experience from his time on a fishing boat in the North Atlantic. The story began with a routine fishing trip in an area known for its unpredictable weather. One night, as a storm rolled in, the crew spotted a distant light through the fog. At first, they thought it was a lighthouse, but as they drew closer, they realized it was a vessel, a large, old-fashioned ship with sails. The boat was moving erratically, and the crew was uneasy. They tried to radio the vessel, but there was no response. The crew decided to keep their distance and observe from afar. The mysterious vessel seemed to be drifting aimlessly, its sails flapping wildly despite the calm winds. Suddenly, it disappeared into the fog as quickly as it had appeared. The crew was left shaken and puzzled. They reported the encounter when they returned to shore, but no one had heard of any missing ships in the area. The most chilling part of the story was the crew's later discovery of an old maritime legend about a phantom ship that appeared in storms, doomed to sail the seas forever. The legend spoke of a vessel that had vanished over a century ago, and the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they had encountered the very ghost ship from the tale. 43. The Abandoned Yacht. In a Reddit post titled Lonely Voyager, a user shared a haunting experience from a solo sailing trip. The sailor was exploring a remote part of the Mediterranean when he stumbled upon an abandoned yacht. The boat was anchored in a secluded cove, its sails tattered and its hull covered in barnacles. The sailor boarded the yacht, curious about its history. Inside, everything was perfectly preserved, except for the unsettling atmosphere. Personal items were scattered about, and there were signs of a recent struggle. The sailor found a diary in the cabin that detailed the owner's growing paranoia and fear of being followed. The diary entries described strange occurrences, unexplained noises, shadows moving in the water, and a sense of being watched. The final entry was a frantic message about seeing dark figures approaching the boat. The sailor was unnerved and decided to leave immediately. As he sailed away, he felt a cold chill and noticed a dark shape following his boat in the water. Despite his attempts to outrun it, the shape seemed to stay at a constant distance. The sailor finally reached the safety of a nearby port and reported the encounter. To this day, he avoids that cove, haunted by the sense of something lurking beneath the surface. Story 4. The Mysterious Sails Call. Captain Joe 89 shared a spine-chilling story from his time as a ship captain in the South Pacific. The story began with an SOS call received late at night. The distress signal came from a boat that was supposedly untraceable. No records of it existed in the maritime databases. The captain and his crew set out to locate the source of the distress call. After hours of searching, they found a small, run-down fishing boat adrift with no one on board. The boat appeared to be in disarray, with equipment scattered and a broken radio. Strangely, the crew discovered a blood-stained logbook that detailed a series of increasingly disturbing events. The logbook mentioned sightings of shadowy figures and strange phenomena, along with the crew's growing sense of dread. The final entry was a frantic message describing something coming for them. As they investigated further, the crew noticed a shadowy figure watching them from the edge of the boat. The figure vanished when they approached, leaving behind only a lingering feeling of fear. The captain ordered the boat to be abandoned, and they returned to shore with no answers. The mysterious SOS call and the unsettling logbook remained unsolved, and the captain and his crew were left with more questions than answers. The memory of that night continues to haunt them, a reminder of the dark and unexplained mysteries that lurk in the open sea.